What it do, baby? Let's try to see if we get that microphone a little closer. Sometimes you gotta just do it like that. This is your AstroShaman Pernell Bobby. We're here generating a world of harmony, leveraging astrology, okay, and human design. This is where the energy is coming. This is the full moon in Gemini. I really want to talk today about what I feel truly is happening with this Gemini energy, and I feel like I have not been able to speak about it too much in depth until about now. And it's about taking the time to, with this full moon in Gemini, think in private. If Gemini is telepathic, you know, Gemini has clear sentience. It may not be sentience. I forget. It's one of these clears where whatever links to telepathy and whatever links to having your mind empty, free, and your perspective and your ability and desire to learn open enough that you can even see multiple perspectives. This Gemini full moon energy is saying, do you actually have the emotional boundaries and barriers set up and in place? Cancer, the feminine energy, so that you can think for yourself. Where I feel like mutable signs are messing up and getting hurt the most between, you know, Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, and primarily, and Virgo was involved in that, but those three are going to get hit way more because of Venus in Sagittarius. Mercury was in Sagittarius, Mercury is now in Capricorn, Mercury and Venus in Capricorn coming soon, but the sun is still in Sagittarius. So like we're at the end of this energy, which is saying like we're having to come to a full complete circle about what do we learn during Sagittarius season. What have we learned about Sagittarius season? In Sag season, especially if you were in a relationship, I feel like especially if you're in a relationship, and if not, if you're in a healing relationship with your emotions, especially your divine feminine emotions, and you have allowed your masculine mind, your monkey mind, especially if you're drinking alcohol, which feeds like fire to the ego, air, you know, so air, ego being more fire, but the wind of Gemini is our thoughts. So it's like, are your thoughts pure? Are your thoughts pure? And your thoughts aren't pure if your emotional boundaries are being crossed, especially in relationships or partnerships, or with whoever you live in your home with. So you can live home with your mom, you can live with your girlfriend, you can live by yourself, you can live with a cat. You can even live with a cat. It doesn't matter who or what, but whoever you're living with, think about it. I've seen this woman have like, her dog had like a sexual crush on her once. As you hit that thumbs up, hit that likes button, real talk. Hit the thumbs up, hit the likes button, real talk. And that's kind of disgusting, right? But like, this is how she dealt with the quarantine. She literally like allowed a dog to grow a sexual attraction to her in a way where it was completely awkwardly insane. My point is, there's emotional boundaries being crossed and tied in the home, in the private. And, you know, literally like the dog's thoughts in that instance can then become this person's thoughts. Now, that's one extreme example. It seems like that, but it's actually simply true. I tried to use an extreme to show you how far this can go, how far this can reach, because this is telepathy. So whoever's in your home, your immediate environment, as well as what are the thoughts and learned behaviors you learned, especially around sexuality. So this is where a lot of this is why I wanted to talk about this today. This is like, you know, the sexuality gap where a lot of us, especially women have learned to dive into masculine energy, and they learned how to focus on survival mode. And they basically, in order to get their orange sacral chakra back in alignment, they had to go back into the root. And the root says, I need to get my bills paid. I need to make sure my home is safe. I need to make sure that I'm safe. And I feel safe when I'm walking home. Gemini, full moon Gemini, walking, third house. I need to feel safe with my car that I have and the integrity of it. I need my home to feel safe and secure. Everything is about security at this 16th degree. And Mars in Gemini is at the same degree conjunct, cutting through what we learned as a security from a familiar or an ancestral, like like misdirected thought development. And I say misdirected because Gemini is a wind as an intellectual, but it's very irritable in Mars, and it's very irritable in, like, its 7-year-old consciousness doesn't want to deal with certain emotions of the 16th degree, of aka Cancer. And Cancer already naturally represses its emotions, so Gemini can play the repressed emotions and just keep skipping around the deeper topics, okay, the deeper emotional truths, where we really get into the end, Scorpio, which is why Gemini's 8th house to Scorpio. Hit that thumbs up, hit that likes button. You feel me? So this is really about the sexuality gap, where women have learned to be like men, in a sense, masculine energy, projective, assertive, forward moving. You see the bird pulling up, it detached, but detached in a way where it detaches in order to reattach to its purpose and its direction. So masculine energy is purpose and direction. It has to have a purpose of why it is going in that direction. And the woman then needs to fold and mold and essentially bend to the will of that masculine, which requires her in her own way to feel safe with her own masculine, to lower her shields. But if a woman does not feel safe in her own personal masculine energy, she cannot trust the male's masculine energy. Yet, a wounded masculine will negatively project onto a male. And it will seem like it is his fault. And because he now, this Gemini Full Moon on the 16th degree of Cancer, because the male is now not touching into his sensitivities, not touching into his intuition, not touching into rest, and he's only focused on the purpose and the direction, he is suffering. This is the duality of the Gemini signs, looking at both left and right. Looking at both left and right, having a very open perspective. This full moon is closing out and showing and revealing to us how we have allowed our monkey minds, our individual monkey minds, to egoically get fed, especially if you're drinking, like I said, alcohol, or even if you eat too many spicy foods, because anything that will heat the body up, the fire is the ego. So you have to understand that, like, the elemental magic property of this says wind and water, okay? But the water is here to cool us from when we were too hot in our ego. Because wind, like Gemini mutable, it only needs a little spark, which is why Aries and Gemini never seem to, like, in their own way, last long, because it's that spark and it sends them in a misdirection. Aries has, like, absolute speed, going with the speed in the wind of Gemini, who is like, I'm all over. You now get like a fire dragon. You understand what I'm saying? And a symbolism, it just makes whatever it's going to make. But when you have the water now soothes and makes a more compassionate, an intuitive touch, a nurturing touch, a receptive touch to the intelligence. So our intelligence now has a receptive, soft, and nurturing energy. And instead of being assertive, forward-moving, pushing, and essentially emotionless and sensitive, free, free of all sensitivities, that's when you now have the male who seems classic and the female who's on the opposite end. And this Gemini full moon is saying these dualities, these different perspectives of us are within us. They need to start coming together and making sense. We need to learn, because Gemini is studying. Gemini is learning. Now you have Sagittarius, Mercury and Sagittarius. We're done with that lesson. So now our higher learning, not our curious and playful communication of learning, deciding to skip whatever homework assignment we don't want to do, Sagittarius is now devoted. It now devote a devotion to the intelligence and what it has shown while Mercury was in Sagittarius. And this is about a higher learning, a higher love. And this is what the opposition is saying. All the little kids games that we're playing with our mind and literally avoiding certain repressed feelings and emotions, and how that separates us as an individual, and as my masculine and my feminine are chaotically irritated and combustible in a direction that they're completely lost in. I'm not going to attract aligned relationships. I'm not going to attract aligned business. I'm not going to attract aligned love. I'm not going to attract aligned monies. I'm not going to attract aligned resources. I'm not going to attract aligned, sexual partners. I'm not going to attract aligned mental stimulation. I'm not going to attract aligned anything as long as my feminine and my masculine within me is at a gap. So the sexuality gap is, we need to see, I feel like I'm right now talking more to women in this specific next example. I truly feel that we need to see how can we generate the renewal of our divine feminine energy and feel okay resting, feel okay not pushing, feel okay trusting another masculine presence outside of you to direct you and guide you, to allow that masculine presence to literally open up his heart into and fill you up, okay, with all of his presence and all of his being, and allow him to direct you. And then the work for the divine feminine is learning how to receive, because everybody knows how to give out of alignment, but can you receive? Can you actually open up and accept a gift? Can you, as a woman, open up and accept a gift and do not believe that it comes with some ulterior motive, or there's some Trojan horse entering into your temple? If that is already the narrative before you even interact or meet a guy, then it will automatically fail. And this full moon in Gemini is telling us we must learn this, and we must close this gap between intelligence and emotions, between irrationality and intuition. We must understand that the mind gets soothed by the water. Why do you think you have the best ideas in the shower? And shout out to Narich. I'm going to have him on the channel again soon. He did the elemental magic with me in the avatar state. So shout out to Narich. And that's where we learned about that. So go check Narich, the avatar state, on my profile, and you're going to see fire, water, okay, earth and air, and how they work as elements in our day-to-day lives. Water you always have better ideas in the shower because water is soothing your mind. It is calming your mind. So I take cold showers, especially in hot weathers, hot climates, and even sometimes in the cold, just to shock my body, to stop the monkey mind. And what I've learned, the matote is, which is the 1,000 voices, okay, on this Gemini full moon, as we close out these oppositions coming soon, as Venus goes into Capricorn. So check that talk out, Bree, Astro Bree, and myself. We're going to be doing that on the 10th, this Saturday, December 10th. This full moon closure is asking us to close this sexuality gap. Gemini is the first experimentation with sexuality in a balanced way, because Taurus is hedonistic and it just takes its pleasures, without even really, it's like, look, I'm taking my nut, forget you. Aries as well. Taurus learns different later as it grows. But Gemini is the first flexibility. It's the first mutable sign of energy. It's the first one that has rationality, with taking itself outside of its pleasures, taking itself outside of its desires and its needs and its wants, which all combobulates as one. Gemini can start to separate these into individual trees and see the branches, which opens the perspective, which is why it has to learn. So understand that what I'm saying is we're all learning how to be more sensitive and embracing our divine feminine energy. I, as a male, not over-emoting, not becoming over-emotional into the toxic, not being inauthentic. And women, especially on that, don't be inauthentic anymore. It's not going to work. And this is what I'm learning and seeing so much, with actual women, that they're struggling to truly be authentic and not recognizing that the inauthenticity is a shadow of the divine feminine. It is a shadow wound of the divine feminine. So we must use the Gemini energy here to rationally look at what is that wound and really learn and study for ourselves privately, 16th degree Cancer, this narrative. And as we do that, the sensitivity, the receptivity within us, the emotionality that helps us to balance our ego with compassion, to balance our thoughts and purify our thoughts. What does water do? Water purifies. Water cleanses. Why do you think I keep saying shower? It cleanses, it purifies. So what does it do? It purifies and cleanses our thoughts. Gemini, the mind, the thoughts that we're learning. We learn a lot of information. We see a lot of nonsense on social media all day, but how many times are we cleaning and purifying our thoughts? I just recently unfollowed like 60 people on Instagram, purifying, cleansing my thought process, really taking a moment to assess, evaluate, is this disrupting my sensitivity? Is this disrupting my nervous system at an emotional level? Tonight I got invited to a carne asada. It's a freaking barbecue here in Mexico. And I'm like, I don't want to go because there's going to be, I wanted to go. I really wanted to go. But now I'm thinking about like, it's going to be a tremendous amount of alcohol. This Gemini Full Moon got people really irritable with Mars. They are cutting up, being erratic. People with Gemini energy doing it the wrong way or avoiding everything, expanding and inflaming literally by drinking their ego, okay, by arguing their ego and cutting their intellectual ego up on other people, taking in other people's insecurities and slashing them with it. And that's what's happening here on the negative side of this moon. So if you're coming across some energies that is buck wild, I had one of my main mans get into a freaking car accident today, Gemini transport, all right? I had a guy lose his phone, another mentee of mine's phone, telecommunication, Gemini. So all of this is happening to the people who are ignoring their intuition, they're ignoring their emotions and the importance for rest and the recognition that this rest is absolutely paramount and critical for us to make intellectual decisions, that we need to finally close out certain relationship patterns and dynamics that have come from an ancestral and generational line. This is your Gemini full moon message. This is your AstroShaman Pernell Bobby. We are here generating a world of harmony. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, leveraging astrology. Embrace the changes and realize that by time Capricorn season, everything will be solid, it will be cemented, and we will see very clear evidence. Mercury is already there, so our mind is already starting to see physical data, which is why things are beginning to actually cataclysmically happen. Eventually, we'll talk more about Capricorn later. I'm out of here. I'll see you soon. Love, 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 love. Hey, join my memberships, baby, if you want to learn more about astrology. Blast off with the kid and the community.